Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 231 of the Dudes and Beer podcast. I am so excited to announce, number one, that the Dudes and Beer podcast is brought to you by Audible. If you're a fan of books like me and just don't have time to turn a page, go on by audibletrials.com/dudes today to get your 30-day free trial of Amazon's Audible. Tons of books, tons of categories, tons of genres. Go by, check it out. audibletrial.com/dudes is a site to get your 30-day free trial. On that note, exciting news coming up next week, folks, is our 4th anniversary live show. So excited to be having it with Jeff Lipton over at Babalu Cigars in Austin. Come on by, check it out. Have a great puff with us. They hand roll all their cigars in-house there. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're a fan of a tobacco like I am, come on by, check it out. We're going to be having some past guests, some friends that listen to the show. We're supposed to be having a great interview recorded with author Graham Phillips about his new book, Wisdom Keepers of Stonehenge. This is one of the foremost people in Stonehenge research, folks. So don't miss it. Come on out. Check out not only that interview that we're going to have recorded, but all kinds of fun stuff, all kinds of prizes. Babalu Cigar next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. We've been having some great reports lately. This evening, we will be joined by Sev Tok of PlanetTV.com and author of the book, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. She is an alien contactee, been an experiencer of the paranormal since she was 5. We will be talking to her about contacting aliens, talking to civilizations outside of our earthly sphere. Right after this report from John Bound, as well as this week's Ask Alexa segment.
There are over 550,000 homeless on the streets of America's cities. 36,000 of those are youths. 38,000 are veterans, and 180,000 are families. And if white privilege exists, why is it that white Americans are the largest racial group of homelessness, making up 49% of those on the streets? However, things are tough all over, as black Americans and Native Americans numbers are high compared to their numbers in the general population, and the homeless population is gradually increasing.
This is the worst I've ever seen it. There are hundreds and hundreds of gang members and their associates hiding amongst the homeless.
The LAPD says this video shows known gang members brutally beating a man.
Add to this national crisis the stark reality that mental illness is rampant amongst the homeless. Because roughly 60 years ago, the medical community and the federal government saw to it that long-term state mental institutions were closed in favor of community centers and a growing pharmaceutical industry stranglehold. There are now 14 slots per 100,000 people available for mental health treatment, and private mental health facilities, which don't accept insurance, can cost upwards of $30,000 per month. The mental health crisis has spilled out into our streets, as a study published in the journal Psychiatric Services estimates 3.4% of Americans, 8 million Americans, suffer from serious psychological problems. For example,
Aditi Saha says a homeless man threatened her with a knife back in July. Saha says her incident took place just about 500 feet away from where this incident happened early Sunday morning. Surveillance cameras were rolling when a woman was attacked by a homeless man out front of her luxury high-rise. 25-year-old Austin Vincent was arrested and now released by the court pending trial. She tweeted Governor Gavin Newsom Wednesday night, attached a video of her attack for him to see, then asked the governor to save San Francisco.
I don't feel safe. I know that we're all at risk, especially when this thing opens up. I mean, think about it, 250 new homeless people that God knows who they are, what they struggle with, whether it's drugs or mental illness. And all the city is providing is a shelter. No treatment, no security, no proper planning, just a shelter.
President Trump has brought awareness to what many have ignored for too long.
I was talking about mental institutions. They closed so many, like 92% of the mental institutions around this country over the years for budgetary reasons. These are people that have to be in institutions for help. I'm not talking about as a form of a prison. I'm saying for help. And I think it's something we have to really look at, the whole concept of mental institutions. I remember growing up, we had mental institutions. Then they were closed in New York, I'm talking about. Many of them were closed. A lot of them were closed. And all of those people were put out on the streets. And I said, even as a young guy, I said, how does that work? That's not a good thing.
But liberals are only happy to cheerlead the despair if it means they will increase their own power. In the words of Thomas Jefferson, if the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all of their property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. John Bound reporting.
Great stuff as always from John Bound. Now, in honor of our guest this evening, Sev Tok, experiencer and alien contactee, we took the time in this segment of Ask Alexa to ask Alexa a little bit about alien life. Let's see what the Alexa AI, I can see my Alexa in the background that's on mute trying to answer me. Let's see what it has to say about alien life. Alexa, what is the definition of alien life?
Extraterrestrial life refers to life occurring outside of Earth which did not originate on Earth. Such hypothetical life might range from simple prokaryotes to beings with civilizations far more advanced than humanity. The Drake equation speculates about the existence of intelligent life elsewhere in the universe.
Alexa, define the Drake equation.
Drake equation is usually defined as a formula for calculating the probability of civilizations existing elsewhere in the Milky Way galaxy and of their ability to communicate with Earth.
Alexa, is it possible to communicate with alien civilizations?
Here's something I found from the article Fermi Paradox on Wikipedia. Alien civilizations might be technically capable of contacting Earth, but are only listening instead of transmitting.
Alexa, how do alien beings communicate?
Here's something I found from the article Alien Language on Wikipedia. Linguist Karen Rice posits that basic communication between humans and aliens should be possible, unless the things that we think are common to languages, situating in time and space, talking about participants, etc. are so radically different that the human language provides no starting point for it.
Alexa, will I ever meet an alien?
I don't know that one.
Alexa, is it possible for human beings to communicate with alien intelligence?
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Alexa, open the pod bay door.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. I'm not Hal and we're not in space.
I had to throw in the reference to 2001 there, one of my favorite movies of all time. Alexa may not be able to answer the question as to whether or not we can communicate with aliens, but I tell you who can. Our guest this evening, Sev Tok. Sev, how are you today?
Hi, I'm really good this evening, Chris. It's a pleasure to spend my evening with you and your listeners.
Are you there, Sev?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I had you muted on my headphones, so I could not hear you.
Okay.
Welcome to the show.
Well, it's my pleasure to spend my evening with you and your listeners. Thank you.
You are absolutely welcome. I have been following you on social media amongst the many groups that I'm on for quite a while now, and I love the work that you were doing with your website, planettv.com, as well as
Planet Sev.
Planet Sev.
PlanetSev.com. I have a YouTube channel called Alien Spirit TV.
Yes. Oh, okay, okay, yes. That there you go. Tell us a little bit. Give our listeners a little history. How you first came to experience the paranormal, and how it is that you first came in contact with alien civilizations.
All right. The first contact I remember with ETs happened when I was 10, and I was regularly visited by this big spaceship that would come, and it would always come from a different direction, and it would hover over my head, and it would land, and this being would come out that was very human-like, just slightly different, and he would just check up on me, make sure I was okay, and every time I saw him, I'd be so happy. It was like seeing a brother. I was just so happy to see him. I felt really comfortable with him. And that went on for a couple of years. I lost count how many times he visited. And I was in fifth or sixth grade. So I would have the visitation, and then I would be popped back to my bedroom, and then I would have to get up and get ready to go to school, and I would just try and ignore it. And I didn't even tell my parents, who were very open to this and who were big believers, but I told no one. And the very last visit was when I was around 12, and this time I was with a group of kids. I had never been with a group of kids before. They were about my age, and I didn't look at them in their faces. I was just aware of them standing beside me, and we're all watching the spaceship just fly away, and it was understood that this was his last visit, and it was understood that we're just now to do what we're supposed to do. And it was sad because we knew that we wouldn't see him again. And now that I'm older, I look back on that and I wonder who those kids were. I wonder if I'm going to meet them again. I have this feeling that I've met a couple, but I wonder if we're going to be reunited again. And then from there, I had a lot of ET contact that I kind of ignored because I thought they were dreams, like just crazy dreams. And it really intensified, I would say, really intensified about 8 years ago. And I was having a lot of experiences, a lot of marks on my body that I would just ignore. And what really made me come out this is an incident that just happened recently. It was in September of 2017. It was the second night that we moved here to the Inner Banks of North Carolina. We came here from Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. And I was in the kitchen unpacking the dishes, and it felt like something bit my butt, and it hurt. So I yelled over to my boyfriend, Patrick, I think something bit my butt. Will you look at it? And he goes, yeah. So I go over to the living room, and I'm kind of chuckling to myself, and, bend over, pull my pants down, and he's not saying anything. And I'm waiting, and he's just not saying anything. I'm starting to get nervous. I'm like, well, did a bug bite my butt? And he goes, yeah, and there's a red X. I'm like, what? And he took a picture, and there was this red X on my left cheek. And it was over an inch long and wide, and it was made up of 9 tiny little red circles that looked like they were burned into my skin. And I have a picture of it on my website. I have a picture of it in my book.
Well, and you sent me a picture of it, actually. And a couple of sketches and things like that we'll definitely be talking about this evening. Those pictures will be embedded in the episode post, folks. So make sure to, whenever we post that tomorrow, everybody, to go check that out. The picture is absolutely detailed and amazing, Sev. And that's what I was going to mention, was that it's not like a spider bite or an insect bite or even a pinch mark. It's literally an X comprised of what look like tiny pinpricks.
Yeah, with that, or burned into my body. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
When I rubbed my finger across it, I couldn't feel it. It was flush with my skin. So I knew that it had something to do with the Greys because I had been having experience with the Greys. And back then, I thought the Greys were bad. I thought they were evil. I thought they were up to no good. I've completely changed my mind since then. But back then, that's what I thought. And I didn't want anything to do with them. So I was completely wigged out. I mean, for the next couple of days, I would actually go around the house trying to find what could burn that into my butt. I would be like, I'd sit on the lawn furniture and jiggle around and then, try and find something that could do that to my butt. We couldn't find anything. And even my boyfriend, who's super duper logical, was stupefied. Well, and then 9 days later, yes.
No, go ahead. 9 days later.
9 days later, I came to in my bed, and it's like this instant. There's no grogginess or anything. You go from sleep to awake like it in a second. And my eyes popped open, and I had this memory of being in a hospital-like bed, and I was in this room that had barely any furniture in it, and I couldn't move my arms and I couldn't move my legs. But I could move my neck and my head. So I sensed there was something behind me, and I was lying on my side. So I turned my head around to my back, and standing behind me was a Grey, and we came face to face, like we looked right into each other's eyes. And as I describe in the book, looking into his eyes was like looking into two pools of black oil. And I was terrified. And it didn't say anything to me. In my other experiences with the Greys, there was telepathic communication. But this time there was nothing. It wasn't nice and it wasn't mean. It was completely neutral. So I turned my head back around, and then next thing I know, I'm back in my bedroom. And there was also something else I knew that sounds crazy. I never knew this before in my other experiences, but I knew I was on the moon. I knew that room was on the moon. So I get out of bed and I go downstairs, and I'm waiting for my boyfriend Patrick to come downstairs. And I'm really nervous because I have to ask him once again, will you look at my butt? So he comes downstairs, and I tell him my memory, and I'm like, all right, time to look at my butt. And sure enough, there's another X on my right cheek that looks just like the first X. And he took a picture, and I can't even describe to you the shock. It's like you don't know the truth anymore. It's like everything you believed is like different. And I was really scared and confused, and I started to cry. And my boyfriend's like, how can I help you? I'm like, I was speechless. I didn't know what he could do. So after I calmed down, I just said, I need help. I can't deal with this alone. I need help. And so I got my help. I reached out to Kathleen Martin, who is the Director of Experiencer Research at MUFON. And I sent her a picture of the X, and she responded within 2 or 3 days. And she was kind enough to Skype with me for an hour and a half, and she validated everything for me. She's like an angel. And in case your listeners might not know, she is the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, which is the most famous abduction case that there is. Yeah. She's world famous. She's been on television, and she's highly regarded. And she was also kind enough to to read my book and to endorse it. And she wrote something really nice on the back cover that meant so much to me.
Beautiful. Sev, what? Now, you said that at one point you were afraid of the Greys. That leads me to think one of two things. Number one, you've obviously been in contact with more than one race of ET. To say that one made you feel uncomfortable just immediately makes me think, well, she's been in contact with more than one race of ETs. Number two, what was it? What was it that made you suddenly realize that the Greys meant you, I guess, no harm, that they weren't the threat that you once thought that they were, I guess? Answer those two questions for us. What other civilizations have you spoken with, or races of entities, rather? Could be the same civilization, different races of entities. And what was it that made you change your mind about the Greys and your experiences with them?
Okay. Well, first I'll start with the Greys and why I changed my mind. So I never had a bad experience with the Greys. They were never mean or nasty to me. There was one where they showed me a baby in a tube, this huge test tube, and it had a baby floating in it. And I turned around, and there was 3 Greys, tall, medium, and short, and they were actually pretty nice. They were saying, take your time, we're giving you your space so you can look at this baby in the tube. And I really didn't understand that until a few years later when I went to Roswell, New Mexico, and I met the Greys again, and then they gave me information about the hybridization program. Now,
and what information did they give you about the hybridization program? If you can tell us,
there are millions of people involved in the hybridization program. And what they're looking for is DNA that humans have, and that is our ability to express empathy and sympathy. And they're also looking for other qualities, but that's the most important one, empathy and sympathy, because their race was on declining because the Greys are not empathetic and sympathetic. They're really super duper neutral. And so they wanted to create a race that had the ability to love, because when you have that ability to love, your race can continue because you care about each other and you take care of each other.
Interesting.
And there are billions of these hybrids, little embryos, billions of them, and they're kind of in holding. Some of them are children, and some of them a little older than children, but most of them are still held in this state of embryonic development. And they will be used, maybe if we blow ourselves up, they will be used to reseed this planet.
Okay. And I guess now with that in mind, that's what Greys are doing. How many races of alien entities have you had contact with, Sev?
I've had contact with these small white ones that they're really white. They glow like a light bulb, and I might have sent you a picture of that. That was a shared experience I had just a few months ago in March, where this little white being came, and along with it came this little white dog. It looked like a white dog, and so I've had communication with them. I've also had communication with what I call the blue beings. They're very tall and they're gorgeous and they're very loving. It's really hard to draw them because they're nothing but this moving kaleidoscope of light. And they gave me some interesting information. And also another race that looks human, and they wear these jumpsuits, and they're really the ones that I personally identify with, meaning the ones that I feel that I have some kind of connection to, maybe some genetic connection or a DNA connection. Just about every human being has some sort of galactic DNA in them.
And is that from long ago and star seeding, or is that more continuing on as things have moved along through society of mankind?
Both. It's from centuries or millennia, and also it's happening now. The little kids that are coming into Earth right now are very interesting little children. They're very different. And they're really plugged into the multi-dimensions. And so as we're becoming more accepting to the reality that we are more than 3D, we exist in an infinite amount of dimensions. Mm-hmm. The ETs exist in other dimensions. There's all kinds of life forms in these other dimensions. So when you were asking Alexa, how do we talk to ETs, it's not, we tend to think that it has to be a language, but it's telepathic. It's telepathic. We don't share. We don't have to speak a language with them. And you've heard stories about people who've come in contact with ETs, and they have telepathic communication. And if you had asked these people before their encounter, "Are you telepathic?" they would have said no. But then when they come in contact with these beings, they're instantly telepathic. It's very natural for us to be able to do this. And it's not just information you get in telepathy and a telepathic communication. You also get feeling. So it's actually a much precise and a better way of communicating than words. You get the truth in a telepathic exchange.
I would imagine so. I'm pretty empathic with things. Being able to walk into a room and just be like, yeah, something's off in here. Something doesn't just feel right with the situation, and trust that feeling, folks. Whenever you have that little squirrel running around in your stomach, listen to it. Follow that little tug going on behind your belly button. Most of the time, you'll come out of the situation okay. And it's interesting that you say that you were talking about them being more dimensional beings than necessarily being from another planet. That is more and more the realm that science is looking for, and the realm that scientists are considering is perhaps the fact we just can't always see in the spectrum in which they're vibrating. We can't. Right. We may not always be mentally in tune to the vibration in which they are communicating. And like you're saying, if it's a telepathic form of communication, you've definitely got to be on the same frequency. It's like having two radios that just don't hit the same wavelength, Mm-hmm. If your radio isn't programmed or doesn't have the crystal to hit 102.9, you are not going to get classic rock.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. Right. So go ahead.
So there's a couple ways that you can amp up your frequency so you can communicate better with
exactly
other
where
entities.
I was going.
And so extraterrestrials just simply mean an entity that's off Earth, because we're extraterrestrials to other entities. And angels are ETs, spirit guides are ETs, and aliens are ETs. They're all the same thing, living in another dimension.
Sure.
So it's through meditation that you can connect, and also at night, when we go to sleep and our frequency changes, we have dreams, we have regular, just ordinary dreams, but we also have night travels. And this is why there are millions of people who are having ET contact, but they don't realize it because it's happening when they're really relaxed at night and they're going through time warps, they're going through portals, and they're communicating with these other beings, and they think it's a dream. So they wake up in the morning, and they can't believe that they woke up. They're like, that was the most lifelike dream I've ever had in my entire life. I was given information I've never even known. I have marks on my body. You know, a dream doesn't put marks on your body.
Yeah.
That's how I knew I wasn't making this up, because a dream could not put two red X's on my butt. So this is something that I talk a lot about in helping people, and I do a lot of work with experiencers too. One of my missions is to help experiencers, and I actually have a free forum on my website, planetsev.com, where experiencers can write me and tell me their story, and I'll write them back, and I'll communicate with them and help them understand and process what's happening, because it really is. It's a wonderful, beautiful thing to come in contact with an ET, and it's happening for a reason. And so I help people understand why it's happening, and the information that they give you is life-changing.
Well, and I can only imagine the fact that speaking to any form of, like you said, extraterrestrial intelligence does not lock it down to necessarily being a life form from another planet. That could be an angelic form. That could be any sort of paranormal form that we're talking about. And I myself, like I was telling you before the show, Sev, have had numerous very, very close paranormal experiences. A few where I was there, a few where I know people. I myself had an ecstatic, numerous ecstatic religious experiences within my life and spiritual experiences. So I do not discount anybody whenever they say that they have experienced something. What are your experiences like? Is it a full transportation to another place? Is it more a synesthetic experience where it's associated with smells, sounds, colors, things like that? Is it more like an interactive dream? What are your experiences with these ETs like when you have them?
It's all of that. It's all of that. Some of them I'm transported. Like when I was on that hospital bed, I was transported somewhere else. When I saw the small white being and the white dog kind of creature, I was somewhere else. I was off of Earth. And it also comes in through meditation. It comes in at night. When I don't call them dreams, I call them night travels. And it can also happen when I'm completely wide awake, just sitting in my living room, and I could see maybe some flashes of light, or I could see like this space starting like in front of me. It almost looks like a form is about to appear. It looks like the air looks a little different in one particular part. I've also seen things that look like smoke rings. Lines like shooting through, and I get a tingly sensation in my body, and also I hear a message in my head. It's all of it, and we can all do this. So as human beings, we are psychic, and having paranormal abilities is very, very, very normal for us.
Yeah, our bodies and our brains are, and we've spoken about it numerous times with guests like Dr. John Hall and others. Our bodies are tuned specifically to pick up and amplify frequencies. There's a ton of science that supports this. That's why some people are able to feel crystals, things like that. And like you said, for us not to be able to do this would be the strange thing. It's just that most people, most like almost like hypnosis. You have to be ready to be relaxed enough in order for things to happen. I myself practice active dreaming for a long time, and I'm getting back into it now, starting to kind of personally journal some things and take note, but also going to sleep with intent to look for something, to consider something while I'm asleep and somewhere else in preparation. What can we do? What can people do to make themselves more attuned to this? What can they do if they want to be an experiencer? Number one, do you encourage everybody to be an experiencer? And what can people do to better attune themselves to be one?
So meditation is the best, because in meditation you tweak your frequency, you can get it so that you're vibrating at a higher rate. As far as encouraging everyone, I do encourage everyone to make contact with other beings, whether it's an angel, a spirit guide, or an alien. However, and there's a big however, going back to why I thought the Greys were bad, that's because back then I was viewing life through this filter of victimization. I had been in 2 marriages that were abusive, and I was playing the victim role really well. It's not until I did the self-introspection, which is, digging deep inside of yourself and asking myself, why did I settle for that? Why did I think it was okay? Why am I exuding this victim vibe? And so while I was playing the role of a victim, which I chose to do, and these Greys were coming to me, I'm like, okay, well, they're abusing me too. My ex-husband's abused me. What the hell? They're abusing me too. And then it's not until I got rid of the victim vibe, it's gone through a lot of this internal work, then I realized, oh my goodness, they never harmed me, they never hurt me. Instead, they were giving me information. They were helping me. And they put these red X's on me so I would finally come out and write this book. And I went and I spoke at Alien Con in Baltimore, which was an incredible experience. And I do a lot of talking and a lot of writing, and I have a YouTube channel, Alien Spirit TV, where I have videos explaining some of my ET contact. And I just did a video, actually, where I reviewed the hit show Stranger Things and how it depicts the paranormal. And I also have just started a 10-part series on how to activate your ascension all by yourself. And there's lots of videos on there. And I also have information on my website, planetsev.com. And I have an event coming up at the end of September where I'm giving 3 talks at the Universe Speaks, Talks to Empower You, in Annapolis, Maryland. And if you can't make it in person, you can attend virtually. And I'll be talking about ET contact and manifestation. I talk a lot about the law of alignment. I'll be talking about how to use the basic laws of quantum physics to manifest. I'll be talking about how to fulfill your purpose, how to strengthen your psychic abilities, about parallel worlds. And so it's an all-day thing. And if you can make it in person, if you live around Annapolis, Maryland, that would be wonderful. I'd love to see you. Or you can join us live virtually. And all the information is on my website, planetsev.com.
And that website is so entirely informative, Sev. I was going through it the other day when I was making the initial promo post for the episode and making all the backlinks, things like that. And the information that you provide is so awesome. Tell us a little bit about that 10-part series that you were talking about. I know I shared something about it the other day and was checking part of it out. Tell us a little bit more about what that is and what it helps people out with.
So it's 10 ways to activate your ascension all by yourself. And the basic information was actually relayed to me in a conversation I had with what I call the blue people, and I was wide awake, sitting in my living room, and they came in. And they were telling me about these packets of energy that we have in our body, and these packets of energies are activated through awareness, through your simply the act of knowing that you can activate your frequency, which then helps you to focus in on your purpose as to why you're here and activate your potential and your purpose. And there are ways, there's these energy packets that are in your body that when you activate them, it's a multidimensional event. It's not purely 3D. So there's DNA in our body that is beyond 3D. And so what we're talking about here is DNA that is beyond 3D. And they gave me a message about Tesla, Disney, and Tchaikovsky. And they told me that those three men were actually channeling information. And Disney and Tesla had met. And that when you listen to the music of Tchaikovsky, which is my all-time favorite composer, by the way, it actually activates these energy packets within you to help you fulfill your potential. And so it's not just a coincidence that one of Disney's most famous movies, Fantasia, is Tchaikovsky music.
Yeah, and heavily features music of Tchaikovsky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the first episode I did out of the 10 was about hearing, what you hear, sound, how sound actually, the energy of sound affects the cells in your body. How one of the worst things we do is to wake up to an alarm clock first thing in the morning. I mean, that's a huge jolt, and what that does to the body. And the words we use. And words, letters, they have vibration to them. And so that's what the first part is about. It's just tips on pay attention to what you're hearing all day long. Some people don't even hear silence in a day. It is just filled with sound all day long from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed. And silence is important. We need some silence.
I couldn't have said that better myself. That's why I left the silence there, see? But there is more than one study that has been coming out lately showing that humanity needs to return to a point of solitude. That we need to, and by that means get away from things. Not get away from people necessarily, but get away from things. Get away from all of the society, all the social media, all of the television, radio, things like that. Put it all down for a little while. And I've been considering reactivating it here lately, but for about 6 months, a few years ago, I practiced what is called Black Sabbath, where on Sundays you use no technology. So, no answering your phone, no texting people, no looking stuff up on Google, no Netflix binging, things like that.
And so, what did that do for you?
It was incredible. It really did slow things down for a little bit. It was nice to be able to step away from that. At the time, it was my fiance, now my wife. We would play board games. We would play chess, things like that. So it was nice. It gives you a chance to slow down, to have intimate time to connect with either yourself, people, to just sit in silence and contemplate.
Yeah, and you had talked earlier about paying attention to your intuition.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens when you sit down and you're not bombarded by the TV or the radio or by other people. You can actually hear your heart. What does your heart want for you? What do you really want out of your life? What really makes you happy? And we can't hear it if we're constantly on the go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now earlier you were mentioning the messages that have come through to you from these ETs that you have spoken with. What are and of course you were saying that the Greys were here because their society lacked empathy, and they were trying to learn to genetically put empathy into themselves. What were some of the messages from other races that you have been in contact with, Sev? What do they have to say to us?
That's not the only reason the Greys are
here. No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Not the only reason.
They're here for other reasons too. They're here to actually help mankind. And there are different types of Greys. And there are some more that are more like robotic. They're here to, like, there's sample getters. They get samples of, the earth and the dirt and the this and the that. They also work with a variety of other beings, other ETs. So there's a lot going on there. Now, are you talking, when you ask me about my communication with ETs, do you mean specifically what we call aliens? Because what I do for a living is intuitive readings where I channel people's spirit guides and my spirit guides, and I just pick up the information that floats around us. I call them soul sessions. So that's, are you talking about spirit guides too, or do you want to just talk about what we call aliens?
Well, let's talk about aliens first, and then spirit guides.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when I saw the small white being with the being that also looked like a dog, there wasn't information given there to me. I was just observing, and I'd never seen that white being before. The Greys. Other than the hybridization information that they gave me, they were also in Roswell. They were talking to me about a book that I was writing. At that time, I was writing another book than the one that I actually just published last summer called You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. And they were telling me to write another book, that it would be better received. But at the time, I was so afraid of them, I thought that they were just giving me some bad information. But now when I revisit that conference, I call it a conference that I had with them, I can see that it is indeed this very book that I wrote last summer. The information from the blues, that is, the information that they give is really information that is to help humans understand and realize that there is more to them than just the 3D, and that we're very powerful, and to use our paranormal abilities. That's what really makes us powerful. We live in a quantum world, and basically what that means is there's a multitude of dimensions, and we're all interconnected, and we can all communicate with each other through these dimensions. And when we start living with an awareness that we're communicating and we're sending energy out and frequency out, and our energy and our frequency just keeps moving through these variety of dimensions, that is when we really tap into the power that we have to create our own lives and to create our lives to our standards and to pop out of the victimization vibe. The Americans, I'm just going to talk about Americans, we really have a very heavy victimization vibe that sits on our shoulders. And a lot of people are doing the self-introspection to pop out of that vibe. That is a vibe that keeps you down. It keeps you small. So when you pop out of that vibe, and it takes work, it's not easy. If you're a victim, you probably You probably know it. You probably know that you're a victim, and you can easily change it. So it's just the ability to step back and realize, okay, I am here where I am because it is all my choice. I'm no longer going to blame the people around me for where I am, what I can't do, what I want to do, but my husband won't let me do. And as long as we play that game with blaming other people to keep us small, you'll stay small. But we're not here to be small. We're here to be big, and we're here to be happy, and we're here to fulfill our purposes.
My God, I cannot tell you how much we talk about exactly that on this show, Sev. That's
wonderful.
It is so entirely important, folks. I could not have put it better. We do live the main way that we talk about that on this show regularly is the way that the human brain is as beautiful as it is in its power of manifestation, being able to tie into these frequencies on a quantum level like you're talking about to manifest things in the world around us and in our own lives. It's a negative feedback machine. And entreat me for just a moment, Sev. This comes from millions of years of evolution, and the concept of fire is hot. Because fire is hot, our brain has to learn that rapidly so that we never, ever, ever touch it again. That means that a negative experience will impress upon us 10 times faster than a positive one. And unfortunately, this is what leads down the road of, like you're saying, the victimization mentality. When something bad happens to us in the world, we can't help but think, oh my God, bad things always happen. While at the same time, 2 or 3 good things sped by us real quick, we're caught up in this circular thought of something bad. The more the media throws bad things at us instead of good, the more we stay in this literal survival instinct amygdala world of reaction instead of emotional thinking, and emotive thinking. You know, that beautiful concept of empathy that you're talking about, being able to feel love for somebody else before you speak. You know, it's
yes, and most importantly, feel love for yourself. That's where it starts.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't give more than what you have.
Yeah.
And going back to we were talking about be silent so you can listen to your heart, so you can hear your heart tell you, you know, what you need. Yes, and so we're not trained to love ourselves. In fact, really, we're dissuaded from loving ourselves.
That's
because
right.
A lot of us are brainwashed into thinking that means you're being egocentric or narcissistic, and it's nothing like that at all.
Hey, I tell people all the time, it's the most selfish thing I can do, and I'm okay with that. If loving myself and being okay with myself is the most selfish thing I can do, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, well, it helps mankind. For each and every single one of us that loves ourselves, then we honor ourselves and we do the right things. We do what's good for our hearts, what's good
That's
for
right.
our bodies and for our souls. And one by one, little by little, if we all start doing this, this earth can be a very different place.
Yeah, and
you know, there's a lot of big, huge powers that don't want us to be big. There are a lot of powers on Earth that want us to keep us small.
All day long there are, Sev, and it really does take the power of perseverance. And I say the power of perseverance, folks, because like we were saying earlier, we are beings of manifestation and vibration. Do not put the vibration of I need patience out there. If you think you're aggravated with things now, don't tell the universe, please just give me patience, because it'll give you reasons to be patient real quick. It has a way of giving you, like the genie in the bottle, exactly what you asked for. Like, exactly. I need 200 pounds of gold. And then 200 pounds of gold falls out of a plane and hits you on the head. You got 200 pounds of gold, didn't you? What's your problem? So when you're manifesting, you really do. It's a control of vibration, and very much a being satisfied, like you were saying, with yourself and with your place and where things are. The happier and the more content you are, the more the pieces fall into place, people. It just is. I wish I could say something different.
Because you're exuding that vibration, and then you'll align with the people, the places that also exude that vibration. So probably your listeners have heard about the law of attraction. I call it the law of alignment because quantum physics says the energy of everything is everywhere, so you don't have to attract it. So the energy of what you want is literally not only right in front of you, but it's inside of you. So all you have to do is tweak your energy to align with the energy of what you want, and it shows up in your reality.
Yeah, and it's really just about as easy as believing as though it already is.
Yes.
Literally just.
I heard an interview. Oh, there used to be this interview. It could have been, there was this TV show where really successful people would talk about their life and how they became really successful. And I was listening to Jay-Z. And he says, way back when I first started, we didn't even have a CD made, but we were walking around and we were talking to everybody as if we already had one.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So successful people know this. They understand this. And they use that method. It's all in your mind. Everything is in your mind. And if you just concentrate on what you don't want, that is what you get. And so I talk about this with my clients a lot, especially people who are looking for a romantic partner. And I think women tend to do this. This is just an example. Well, I'm like, okay, what are you looking for? And then they'll start listing everything that they don't want. And that's what they concentrate on. And then they're like, I don't understand why I keep meeting, the same like losers. I'm like, well, you keep concentrating on what you don't want. You're sending out that vibration, and that's what you keep attracting. So it takes work. We all have these old patterns of belief in our brains. It takes work to change that pattern of belief and to just concentrate on what you do want. What's going to work, not what's going to go wrong, but concentrating on the ultimate of what you do want. And I don't mean, specifically the car or the house or the boat.
No.
I'm talking about the feelings. It's about the feelings. You want to be happy. You want to be fulfilled. You want to be at peace. So a lot of things can give you that. A lot of things. It doesn't have to be a particular house, a particular car, a particular boat.
And that is absolute truth. For me, one of the things that I taught for years to people was to lose, or at least attempt to lose, one 4-letter word from your vocabulary. Hate. The word hate. We as a society tend to use that a lot. We throw it around. Like, God, man, I hate her. That's number one. Don't hate people. That's kind of maniacal and really, really wrong. Most of the time when you're saying that, you haven't even met that person. So how can you hate them? You can hate actions. You can totally hate actions or hate the way that people treat somebody or how they treat a situation or how they react to something. But to say that you hate somebody because they do something, That's like number one right there, a way to perfectly realign the way that you think. And to start that realignment to even not hate yourself. Because once you get to the point that you can just go, man, you know what? It's just the way that he does things that I don't like. It's not actually him, you know. Then maybe you can accept the fact that, hey, you make a bad decision every once in a while too. That doesn't mean you have to hate yourself.
Right. And we show hate for ourselves in many, 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 many ways by denying what makes us feel good, or even when it comes to hobbies. I'm really surprised how many people don't have a hobby. Hobbies are really important, or an artistic outlet. When you are in the creative, you're actually channeling.
I couldn't have put that
type
better.
Of meditation.
It is absolutely a form of reaching into the ether.
Into divine energy.
Yeah, and I was just talking to somebody the other day who was like, man, you know, I envy your space in your home. And I was like, you mean my hearth? And he was like, your what? And I was like, my hearth. You know, the ancient Greeks had a goddess of the hearth. That is where you set things up for the muses to come, for the inspiration to come down, for either the muse of poetry or music or what have you. And that's where you put things to bring them, was your hearth. So yeah, I have set this up as a place for the muse to come. I've made it easy for the muse to be able to visit and to come and do their work, so that I can just be here. And it's not work for me. But you really do have to make that conscious effort to do that. And it is an intent. When you wake up in the morning, you literally had the decision to decide whether it is a good day or not. And just decide for it to be a good day. Like, things will happen to you, and some of them may be horrible, folks. But that doesn't mean that, like, the universe is a horrible place.
That's right. And let's also remember that everyone's on their own path, and we don't have to understand why someone's doing something. Half the time we don't even understand why we're doing something.
Yeah.
And we all have higher selves, just like the ETs have higher selves. So my higher self had agreed to come in contact with these grays for my betterment. So, for instance, my ex-husbands, when I was in abusive relationships, I had agreed to that. So I'm not mad at them. I don't blame them. That's something that I agreed to. My higher self agreed to that, and because in some way, at that moment, I didn't understand it, but now I understand it. That was for my betterment. And through that experience, I can then help my clients who are also in abusive relationships. So if we could just remember that everyone is in our life for a reason, our higher self has accepted them there, our higher self has communicated with their higher self, that includes the ETs, and that everyone has their own crap that they're dealing with, their own past life histories or their own negative energy that they're exuding. And if we can all just concentrate on ourselves, to stop trying to be so judgmental of everybody else, and just turn your eyeballs inward and just concentrate on your responses. Don't get so hung up on other people's responses. And that was really the thing that helped me the most. When I'm maybe I'm having a conversation where the person's making me feel bad or angry, I've learned now that we're not perfect, but for the most part, I can step back and concentrate on my response. I'm like, oh my God, why did what he just say upset me so much? And then you forget about the other person in front of you talking to you. You're like, what's inside of me why was that my trigger? I want to find why that was my trigger, and I want to make peace with it. I don't want that trigger anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very much the point that I've come to in a lot of ways is I just want to know why I'm feeling that. Even myself, as someone who suffers from anxiety, it's one of those, like, I wish I knew why I was having an anxiety attack, because then I wouldn't be having an anxiety attack. Like, I could actually control it if I knew what was causing it. So whenever I see the opportunity to explore what causes something, I always want to explore that. I always want to go into that. And I want to
Not everybody does.
No, they don't. Not everybody does, Sev, and you're absolutely right on that, which is a lot of the reason why our world is the way it is, unfortunately. It's a lot of the reason why many of these other civilizations will not make themselves known to a great number of humanity, because we just aren't ready. Most people, I think, would probably accept the existence, but I don't think they're ready. I don't think that they're actively ready for the implication of what that actively means.
Yeah, that is a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah, everything changes. Everything. And I'm not saying that humanity is not ready for truth. I'm not saying that we aren't ready for a paradigm shift. I'm just saying that it's going to be a big one. Yeah. It's going to be a huge one when it happens. Even right now with the soft disclosure that's going on, things like that, that have been happening and, of course, have been talked about at events like Alien Con, things like that. It's interesting to basically see them saying, well, there's something there. There's something there.
Yeah, we're being prepped.
Yeah, most definitely. That's the only way I can see it. I remember being at family Christmas when the first footage from the Pentagon was released. And about 6 months before that, we'd done an episode where I was like, soft disclosure is going to happen within the next year. It's going to start happening. There's too much out there right now that is just becoming public knowledge that you just can't hide anymore.
Right.
With the advent of the internet and things like that, it's just too readily available. It moves too fast for things to be able to be stopped necessarily in that way. But
yeah, the cat's out of the bag. You can't put it back in.
Yeah. Right. Now, in your experience, Sev, as we wrap things up, what do these entities feel about that? Are they ready for things for bridge to be built?
Yes. So there's two types of contact. There's the contact that's happening through the multi-dimensions that we talked about earlier, and there's also like hard 3D contact. The hard 3D contact, that's scary for the ETs and for us because we are an extremely violent species.
Yeah.
And so that's why there's so much of this contact being done through the multi-dimensions and what I call these night travels and through meditations. They're talking to us that way. That's the easiest way. That's the easiest for us and the easiest for them. Until we learn to stop killing one another, stop killing animals, having a whole bunch of spaceships land in front of the White House, that's kind of far off because there's gonna be death there. There's a lot of death that'll happen. So right now, we all need to know that we can speak with other beings and with each other, with other humans, telepathically and through the multi-dimensions, and get our information that way. And then as we become much more peaceful and express more love, then it's going to be safer to have a really hard 3D contact.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, most definitely. Because what I know, one of the things I experienced and experience fairly regularly. Like I said, I did quite a bit of, I guess, dream travel, dream experiencing, program dreaming, where, like I said, I was going to sleep with intent to look for an answer to something, and that led me down the path of near out of body experience.
Oh yeah,
and very, very interesting. There were a couple of times where it was definitely like it was right there, and I could tell that it was happening, and I was kind of uncomfortable. But more what it led to was that moment just before, which is the falling sensation that, if you get past, apparently leads to that out-of-body experience. But for me, what the falling sensation leads to most of the time is a jolting awake to night terror. What can somebody do to kind of ease that when it happens? Because it's definitely a mid-drift between two worlds that happens.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. You're recalibrating. And so maybe your consciousness and your awareness is back in the bed, but your body isn't really ready to express itself in like its complete 3D form. So when you mean night terror, what do you mean exactly?
Well, I mean, waking up, not being able to move, talk.
Yeah. Yep.
Being aware that I'm awake. On occasion, still hearing my dream.
Yes.
While I'm awake.
Or feeling entities around you.
Oh, definitely feeling entities around me. I've been touched by them. I've been, yeah. But more, it's the hearing of the dream, on occasionally still seeing images from the dream around me. But what can somebody do when they come back from that to kind of, I guess, backtrack out of it?
Well, you just have to tell yourself, oh, understand what's happening, instead of going, oh my God, what the hell is happening? Oh my God, I'm so afraid. Instead of just go, oh, this is really cool. I'm transitioning from my awareness that was just out in different parts of this quantum world is now coming back to Earth reality, and my body has to catch up with it. So, okay, I'm just going to sit here and wait until my physical body catches up with my consciousness.
Okay. So just a big, deep breath then, like mentally.
I mean, they'll meet again, and you'll be fine.
Okay.
I think they're actually selling, if I'm not mistaken, I think I might have seen a commercial for this on TV where they're selling pharmaceuticals for people who are in that state.
Oh, no. Thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I don't even know how that's going to help that.
No.
To me, that just shows a misunderstanding of really what's going on. That it's not just a purely physical occurrence. It's a multidimensional experience.
Yeah. It's, and you know, on occasion, I'm able to have that calm, deep breath, and it happens more frequently, oddly enough, when I'm on the road, I think, than when I'm at home. The long, deep breath, and I think it's because I see something totally unfamiliar. You know, like I immediately see the alarm clock or the pattern of the wall, and I go, I'm not at home.
I'm in a hotel now.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like that. Okay. It's an immediate like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm I'm on the road. Yes, Doug Wiggins, lucid dreaming is exactly what I'm talking about. Though that is one of the things that the night terror is apparently a precursor to, is lucid dreaming, out of body experience, that kind of thing. Which, of course,
yeah, that's such an unfortunate term, night terror. Can we just use something else?
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, that already implies that something horrible is happening.
Well,
right?
and I guess I put it into that category because that's simply the psychological term for it. But
yeah, it's the common term for it. I'd like to see that change.
Yeah, I agree with you. What can we call that?
I don't know. I'm trying to come up with all kinds of words for all kinds of things.
A sleep stutter.
We need a new vocabulary.
Right now it's a sleep stutter.
A sleep stutter, okay.
You aren't quite dreaming and you're not quite awake yet. So it's a sleep stutter, folks.
It's the in-between stage.
There you go. Your brain's trying to figure out what it wants to say, and it just can't yet. It's trying to figure out what it wants to get out, and it just can't. Yeah,
you're not all there.
Yeah,
you haven't. All parts of you have not arrived.
Absolutely.
You have to wait. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Items may have shifted in transit.
Oh, that's a good one. That's actually a really good one.
That's somebody that travels a lot right there. Yes, sleep paralysis also, Doug Wiggins just chimed in. That is the other term for it, sleep paralysis.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's scary too.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, well, Sev, thank you so much for taking the time this evening to talk with our audience. I'd love to have you back on the show to talk about this more, to talk about your experiences, your speeches that you go out and give, your motivational work that you do. Tell everybody where they can go to sign up for these the 10-part series that you have, where they can go to check out all of your video content, where they can go to get You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens, the book, all that kind of stuff. It is shameless self-promotion time. Take it away.
Well, I'm grateful. The book, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens, is on Amazon. My website is planetsev.com. Oh, and by the way, there's two reasons I call it Planet Sev. One is that there's actually a Planet Sev Tok and a Sev Tok star system in the Star Wars galactic system. And I tell the story of how that happened on my website. And my YouTube channel is Alien Spirit TV. I have a lot of information on there. My talk, The Universe Speaks, Talks to Empower You, is September 28th. You can get information on my website, how to get tickets. You can attend in person or virtually. And also my work with experiencers. It's really important to me. I want to help experiencers. So I have a free forum. If you've had ET contact and you're just looking for some help to understand it, or you just need to come out to somebody that make you feel safe and make you feel like understood, just go to my website, please. And there's a tab called ET Encounters, and there's a form for you to fill, and I will respond to you.
Fantastic, Sev. Thank you so much for once again coming on and sharing your message. Also for making that forum, like I was telling you before the show, it's been quite the journey of Dudes and Beer. And over the last 2 years, Dr. John Hall has rapidly become one of the most popular guests on the show, as well as one of my very good friends. We talk regularly. And I think it was his appearing on the show that was really, really a huge catalyst for the big pivot point this last year, where I was like, I can still have the conversation about having conversations, but I need to be talking to people like Sev Tok. I need to be talking to people on a different caliber because there are people out there that need this. There are people out there that need to talk. And it was after I was contacted by somebody who had been electronically harassed by a government that was like, my God, thank you so much for this episode. Nobody talks about this technology. How can I get a hold of this guy? How can I get help? How can I get legal help to make this stop? So for people like you to be out there, for contactees to be able to talk to, is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for what you do in that right. Like I said, like I said earlier, it's not that people could call me crazy for my spiritual experiences. It's that people have called me crazy for my spiritual experiences. And I will not denounce my spiritual experiences a day in my life, ever. They happened. They were there. It was a thing. And the things that you have experienced are a thing. The things that these other contactees have experienced are a thing. And more people are willing to come forward nowadays and ready to come forward nowadays to share their experience, to share their story. And I want to thank you so much, not only for coming and sharing your story, but for giving people that space and that place to come share theirs, Sev.
Thank you, Chris. I had a really good time.
Absolutely. Same here. You are invited on anytime. Should you get messages or anything like that you are moved to share with the greater audience, you are always welcome. So feel free to contact me and reach out, and we will absolutely have you back on the show. I will, of course, be in touch with all of this stuff and with upcoming things. I'd love to have you back on. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much again, Sev.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Please do hold the line for a moment while we close things out. While you are on the line online checking out the great work of Sev Tok, who we've had on the line, going out and checking out planetsev.com. That is planetsev.com, folks. Go out and check out dudesandbeer.com. That's where you can find the episodes. That's where you can find the Knowledge Vault with all of the great declassified government programs, scientific documents, scientific studies, information on, all kinds of hidden and forbidden knowledge and technology. Make sure to go on by the HC Universal Network as well to check out all of the other great shows on our network. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, if you can't be good at it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams or chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for Android and iDevices, available on Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Breach.tv, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Dudes and Beer is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more about our sponsors and other podcasts on this network, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, drink responsibly.